And should we win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Welcome to Let's Get To, your tour of America through the lens of minor league baseball. Baseball from sea to shining sea. And now, the first pitch. Opening thoughts from James Christopher. Presented by BaseballMapper.com.
And welcome to our 4th of July episode. I am your host, James Christopher. And first of all, we're all used to Zooms and the whole 2020 to 2022 thing. Vader is not a big fan of thunder. We're finally getting some rain. So he might be popping into the episode, but I'm sure he'll add something of value. This is our 4th of July episode. It is one of my favorite days of the year. And I did want to, or felt compelled to, or felt the need to talk a little politics. And I try not to do that because I know that chances are you're tuning in on for some, you want a break from it. And I want to give you a break from it. And I also appreciate the fact that not everybody sees the world the way I do. I've tried to maintain that tenor anytime we've spoken politics on the show, that, hey, I get it, that I'm not necessarily going to be seeing things the way you see things. And look, the decision by the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade was very, very depressing. And I get that people are going to feel differently about it. I understand the passion on both sides. But me, myself, with not only a daughter, but a granddaughter, was very concerned. But I'm not going to talk about that in specific, in part because I feel like this is the part where I need to be quiet and instead support all the women in my life, or the women that I respect, the women that I love, and basically support them as they take the fight on, because it's their body. One of the things, though, that worries me, and I thought it was appropriate on a 4th of July episode, and you can see that I'm wearing my Home of the Brave t-shirt, available for purchase on our site. We've also got a camouflage one. I'm pretty upfront about a lot of things on the show. I'm pretty upfront about the fact that I am a military veteran, that I did fight, that was disabled-ish, I guess, by the Army says I am, by my service. Okay, so that's everything that I view the world from. I'm also a guy who understands the history of this country, and I love this country. And one of the things that we were founded on was a separation of church and state. And as we watch more and more laws, more and more decisions on how we live our lives in this country based on religion, it begins to worry me. And there's a lot of different opinions, and it's like everything, every other part of the Constitution, right? Like there are going to be a million ways to look at and dissect and say, no, they meant this, or no, they meant that. But a lot of historians believe, I tend to be one of them, that the separation of church and state was to protect the state from the church and not the church from the state. If you go back to the original 13 colonies, they were founded in part because they were escaping religious persecution, because they needed to have a group of people that had different religious ideals. And back at the time, like being Catholic and being a Protestant was a big deal. It's still a big deal to some people. Catholics, what? Anytime I see that start to get encroached upon, I get concerned. We are not, nor will we ever intended to be, a theocracy. If you think about what a theocracy is, it is a system of government where religious texts, religious ideology, religious beliefs supersede secular ones, where women in some of these theocracies around the world are somehow given fewer rights than men are. And we can jump to the extreme example in a lot of Muslim countries where women can't show their face, where they're not allowed to drive, they're not allowed to go to school, they're not allowed to be news reporters anymore. Hello, Afghanistan. But aren't we on a weird walk to that? Now that we've gotten in the business of telling women that their healthcare choices are not theirs. What I would prefer is that we keep everything in its proper context. I understand why the concept of abortion is so abhorrent to people. I can understand how we get there. But it's a religious belief. It's a personal belief. And so to me, it's best left in the church. And if you honestly believe that some of the things that they're going to be coming after next, not just abortion, but let's say they're going after gay marriage, or they're going after, women being able to use contraception, all those things. If you honestly believe that they are a sin and that they're against God, well, don't we have something in the Bible about casting stones if we live in a glass house? How you shouldn't do that. It's bad because the house, breaks. It seems to me that if you're a godly person, if you believe in God, I do. If you are a member of a religion, I am. That those decisions and the judgment on those decisions are going to be left up to God. So maybe we don't need to make things so much harder down here. So it just seems awkward to me that this is happening so close to the 4th of July, where we said that everyone's created equal, that we are going to create a system of government that doesn't rely on religious control, that is in fact separated church and state, and that we're backstepping or falling backward into debates and thoughts and ideologies that should have been settled a long time ago. I think about Andy Tomcheson, who's going to be on the show later on, and he's famous for saying, if you don't want an abortion, don't get one. If you're against gay marriage, don't get one. It just seems like we are falling into a direction that I'm not comfortable with. And maybe to some people, we've been on that direction the whole time. I don't know. It just seems to me that sliding into theocracy is a really bad move, and it's a really slippery slope on how you get to one. And I, for one, am not here for it. And I'm hoping that we can move past that. And I know that I'm going to lose a couple followers, maybe a couple of viewers, because of the fact that I feel that way. And honestly, I'm fine with that. There's a couple of sort of red line issues with me, and this is one of them. And, I am all about the debate. I'm all about discussing things, but I think we're going out of our way to make things incredibly hard, including trying to put some sort of law that says you can't go to another state. All of a sudden, we're needing papers to go from state to state. That sounds pretty Russian to me. And I'll close with the fact that a lot of the people that I know, like being Catholic and working for a Catholic organization, I know a lot of people that are pro-life, that are the best people, and they really want to not just be pro-life, but help mothers get through if the pregnancy is unwanted and finding other issues. But I also know a lot of people that are super pro-life and hate everybody on welfare. And so what we've done now is we're creating a system of poverty, a system of inability to pull oneself up by their bootstraps, because let's be honest, the high percentage of people, we got some thunder. The high percentage of people, I don't know, is that God getting mad at me for what I'm saying? I don't think so. I don't know. I hope not. But we're talking about a method of healthcare that is primarily used by people of color and people that are of lower economic status. They can't it's not even that they don't want the burden. They can't handle the burden. And I know that you're going to get a lot of people that are going to talk about, well, self-control, and you need to have a sense of responsibility. But sometimes stuff happens. And I'm not even bringing up rape or incest or health of the mother, because we should need those situations for this to be legal. But again, I just really concern ourselves when we start getting in the habits of losing rights, having the Supreme Court take rights away. It's not ever really been in its in its purview or things it's ever done. So I'm happy to have the discussion with people. I do understand where it puts me in regarding to Catholic teaching, and I completely understand that. And I just feel the way I feel. I'm also pro death penalty, so that also puts me on the outs with the Catholic Church. So here we go. But I just thought it was a really sad day, and I think a really dangerous day for where we're going in this country. Enough of the soapbox, enough of that. We do have a great episode coming for you today. The Corpus Christi Hooks are here. Paul Caputo is here, and Andy Tom Cheston is here to talk about a great documentary we just watched. So stay with us.
Lights, camera, play ball. The best in baseball cinema.
All right, we're jumping back in here on Lights, Camera, Play Ball. We are, it's our 4th of July episode, Andy. What better, sort of thing to look at than a really good American story about overcoming adversity? And that was the documentary After Jackie. Overall, what'd you think?
I didn't like the way it was advertised. I'll tell you why. I liked the movie. I really enjoyed my time. It was about an hour and a half spent watching, and it was really an enjoyable film. But it was billed as being very representative of Hank Aaron and Larry Doby and a couple of the others that came immediately after Jackie Robinson broke the segregation line in Major League Baseball, and then started to retire after the 56th season. It really turned out to be a love letter to the Cardinals, which wasn't a bad thing. I'm not hating on it, but
right.
I think it's a different story than maybe it wasn't quite as inclusive of all of Major League Baseball as it could have been. But I also know you have to limit the scope of a story in a 90-minute movie to the story you want to tell. So it's a little bit different than advertised, but I still think it's really, really good.
One of the things that I want to get to what I liked about it, but I also found the storytelling a little problematic because I think they kept going back to Jackie too much. And it felt like it was almost like the filmmakers weren't sure the audience would dig the story on its own merits. They kept having to relate it back to Jackie Robinson. And I mentioned it to Jessica the first 15 minutes in, and she's like, well, I would, don't worry about that yet until you get to 60 minutes in and they were still doing it. That's my biggest issue with the storytelling.
Yeah, but Hank Aaron was in the advertisement the History Channel put on, and I guess we should say where you can watch this film. It's on the History Channel. If you subscribe to Hulu Live or YouTube Live, you can watch it. If you don't, you're going to pay $4.99 to see it.
Or Discovery Plus, I think, has it.
Yeah, so. I think they also have it. The advertising featured a lot of Hank Aaron. It featured a lot of other players, but the story was about 3 players primarily, which isn't a bad thing, but it is the story of Bill White. It is the story of Curt Flood. It is the story of Bob Gibson. And really the last 45 minutes is the story of Curt Flood.
Yeah, and I'm glad that the story of Curt Flood was highlighted because I don't think people realize, how important his decision was and how he never really did reap any of the benefits of the decision that he made, basically creating the concept of free agency in baseball.
Yeah, there were a couple of Dodgers pitchers who had attempted something similar, but it didn't have the same impact because ultimately they got paid by the Dodgers and went along their way to keep pitching. Messersmith and somebody else whose name escaped me. But anyway, for those of you that didn't get to see Bob Gibson in his prime or haven't seen films of Bob Gibson in his prime, don't know Bill White from Ron White, or I really don't know the story of Curt Flood. It's a really valuable lesson in, even after breaking the color line, the things that you had to deal with. And I think one of the big things just for Major League Baseball players that we all, I guess our parents and our grandparents all kind of accepted is that these players are property of a team until that team decides that they're not. Yeah. And in any other walk of life, when you're not producing films, you're a teacher, an educator. I work for a company in a human resources capacity. We would all balk pretty heavily at the idea that those employers determine when we can work, how long we can work for them, and inhibit our freedom to go anywhere else ever, as long as we're valuable to them. But that's exactly what was happening in Major League Baseball because of the reserve clause. And I think the biggest history lesson there, and there was good pieces on Bill White, good pieces on Bob Gibson, but the big piece on Curt Flood is the stand that he took and how that really, more than anything else, has altered the game of Major League Baseball into what we recognize today. Because it wasn't the same thing. You were an organizational piece up until you were traded or you were told you can't play anymore. And Curt Flood, rightly said, my family's here, my kids go to school here, I don't want to be traded, and if I'm being traded, I don't have any say in it. And challenge the reserve clause all the way up to the Supreme Court. So it was a testament to a man standing up for his personal freedom.
One of the things I found sort of just as an interesting nugget was the fact that Bob Gibson wasn't always a starter. Like, how does somebody not look at that guy in that era and say he is going to be your starting pitcher? He was so dominant and intimidating.
Yeah. And for the Astros fans that listen to this, he was what the dream of J.R. Richard could have been realized. Obviously before him, he was a guy that was so dominant as a starter that they lowered the mound for all of Major League Baseball to keep him from being as dominant. And he was every bit the competitor. And I think I've read where, Nolan Ryan talks about wanting to have the presence of Bob Gibson on the mound and really trying to develop his on-mound persona. And all of you who love Nolan Ryan, he's kind of an asshole when he pitched. It's okay. He admits it too. Right. But I'm going to own half this plate, and you're not going to dig in on me. You're not going to get comfortable as batter. And if you look at me wrong, and a lot of the unwritten rules that we get all pissy about now because they don't really apply to baseball as it is, he was the guy that enforced them.
Right.
If you flipped your bat or you sat and stared at a home run that you hit off of him, that you were fortunate enough to hit off of him, your teammate was going to get drilled in the shoulder blades. And it wasn't an accident. And and you didn't charge the mound on Bob Gibson because he was a badass.
Yeah.
There was no, you just took my shoulder hurts now, I guess. That's what's going to happen to me. But yeah, he was an incredible player. And that's, that was the path, though. You didn't play your 6 years and hope that somebody recognized your talent in the minor leagues and move on to another franchise. You were the Cardinals' property if you're Bob Gibson. And they said, well, if you're going to pitch the major leagues, you're in the bullpen for a while. And it took a change of managers to realize that he was not only a starter, but the best starter in baseball for an extended period of time.
Which then ignited a couple of World Series wins. I mean, obviously the St. Louis's place as the second best team in the history of baseball is really cemented in that run.
Yep. Certainly the best team in the National League. And I think a lot of people remember Bill White more with the Cubs than they do with the Cardinals. I think the innovation that Lou Brock brought to the game that they did talk about in this film was also, it was bringing the style of Negro League baseball into major leagues. Which is what Jackie Robinson was credited with doing. But the way the story the film told, they really cemented with this Cardinals team and some others that's the way you play baseball, and that's the way you win games, especially if you don't have a bunch of guys hitting 50 home runs a year. And the Cardinals didn't. They didn't have really that guy. What they did was run you to death with speed and base stealing, and it was hard to get a hit against them because they had so many guys flying around the field, plus defenders. Curt Flood doesn't get near the amount of credit he deserves for being probably the best defensive center fielder in baseball for an extended period of time. It was a fun watch.
Yeah, it was a fun watch. I thought the storytelling was really well done. I thought, for as much as we talked about the weaknesses at the beginning, I thought the way that the director and the editors laid it out was compelling. I thought the use of, it was really cool to have them be able to go back and get archival footage of them talking about what it was like to be at that time. And it's one thing to watch sort of Ken Burns baseball and hear Bob Costas talk about it. It's another thing to hear Bob Gibson talk about being Bob Gibson.
Yeah, and I think both of our problems with the film probably have more to do with the marketing of the film than the actual film itself. And I'm sure you've experienced this. The marketing and the actual film often don't line up with one another.
Right. Yeah, you don't really get a say in that. Well, definitely, I think people should check it out. I think particularly on this 4th of July when we're, struggling with what it means to have freedom and personal choice and all that stuff. But I think it definitely fits. It would be something good to watch if you need a break from that 100-degree heat.
Absolutely.
All right, Andy, we'll be back in a bit for another movie. Until then, have a good 4th.
Happy 4th to you and Jess, and happy 4th to all the Let's Get To fans.
On the St. Louis team, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
That's what I want to find out. I want you to tell me the names of the fellas on the St. Louis team.
I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
Do you know the fellas' names?
Yes.
Well, then who's playing first?
Yes.
I mean, the fellas.
Who's on
base.
first? The Let's
The fella
Get
playing
To
first
Team
base
of the
for St.
Week.
Louis.
Who?
The guy on first base.
Presented by the Baseball Bucket
What are you
List
asking me for?
podcast.
I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, who is on first?
I'm asking you who's on first.
And it is our 4th of July episode, which means it's time to check in on one of our favorite teams, the Corpus Christi Hooks. Dustin FIshman is here. Dustin, this is the 4th of July episode. It's dropping July 1st, which means you're going to get a little bit of sleep before a really long homestand. What can we expect from this first 12-game homestand as you guys come back?
We are super excited. Also, thanks again for having us on. As always, love talking with you. No, we are just really pumped for our first 12 gamer. We've got a full lineup here we've got obviously kicking it off with the 4th, which what goes better than baseball in the 4th? Really nothing. I beg to have that argument with
The only way you could make that better is if you did like a screening of Jaws in the outfield after the fireworks, and then it'd be perfect.
I mean, maybe that's in the works for next year.
Telling you what, if you guys have a Jaws night, I'm all over it. But yeah, definitely, you're exactly right. Baseball, 4th of July, what's better than that?
But yeah, so that really kind of kicks off the homestand, and then we roll into. We have got some big promos. We've got a Lance McCullers Hooks bobblehead on July 8th. We've got a Margaritaville Hooks jersey on July 9th. And we just put it out there today. It was on our promo schedule, but hyping it up a little bit more now. On July 14th, we're doing a HEB and Favor gift card raffle totaling over $5,000.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Considering
So
take your 50-50 is compared to that.
So it's basically we'll have a winner every inning, and the increments go up every inning. I think it starts at 50, and the last one is $600. So probably a good chance if there's a game that you want to come to this year, if it's not the 4th, if it's not opening night, this is one of those ones where you kind of got to lock that in. Plus, after the game, we've got a post-game concert from the Spasmatics.
And it's Bastille Day, if you care about that. I don't, but French people do.
Thursday.
I mean, it's everything. Real quick before we keep going, so you guys do a lot of bobbleheads and cool giveaways, and you do a lot of jerseys. Which do you tend to see the bigger turnout for, or is it kind of a wash?
This is the first bobblehead that I'll be here for, so I'm interested to see. So far, the jerseys have the amount of people that we have getting in line at, I think this past Saturday, it was 2:00 that I had rolled by, and there were people already waiting. Gates didn't open until 5:30. So you're talking about, 3.5 hours before gates open, and people are already camping out with their chairs trying to get their jerseys. And we limit it to one person per ticket. You can't buy 10 tickets, and people try. We literally have staff that's out there that are just keeping eyes going from one gate to the other, because people will try, and we tell them it's one per I don't care how many tickets you have, just to make it fair. So that way everyone can get a jersey, and it's worked out really well. But that so far this year has been the big one, is those jerseys.
And I got to imagine Margaritaville night is going to be no different, because that's just awesome.
It's actually the look of it. Well, obviously the look of it, is different. But the other jerseys we've done so far this year, they're all with Sicko is our sponsor for those for this year. They're all the normal button ups, but the Margaritaville is actually a little V-neck jersey. We were sporting that this weekend with our MC during the game. So some fans this past weekend got to see what it looked like. And we were already getting questions immediately. People saying, what was the date again? When are you doing that? We need to be here for that. Do you have any extras yet?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to definitely be trolling eBay whenever a little bit after that, just so I can grab one. One of the things you guys have coming up in August, and it's one of your, I think, one of the coolest nights of you guys have, and that's your Dios de los Hooks Hooks weekend. I mean, I love the idea that you're doing the paint your own sugar skull, that you're doing the jersey. Will we have new jerseys for that this year, or is it going to be a look we've seen before?
New jerseys that will be coming out, so new look for it. And we'll also that'll be another one of our Sicko jerseys that we're giving away too. So fans will be able to get their hands on one of those first 2,000 that come to that game. So it'll be a really good night. That's always performed well, and it's always a good community night that we have here at the ballpark.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of your, I think, best looking merch comes out of that weekend because it really does kind of embrace the culture of what you guys have down there in Corpus.
Of course. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be my first time with Dia. So it's exciting to have kind of a new look and everything going for this year too. So we'll probably be revealing all of that here soon.
And I guess, you guys, again, it's a full calendar between now and then, and even the sort of last Friday of the season that you guys are at home, you're doing a Hooks college football t-shirt giveaway. I mean, it just does seem like you guys, pun intended, covered all your bases this year.
We want to, because we want to make sure that people know, regardless of, whether you like baseball or you just want to look for something fun to do, we want to cater to everyone. And that's where all the different, whether it's a giveaway or a specific promo, we just want everyone to feel included and want to come out and maybe intrigue them. Maybe they didn't want to come out to a Hooks game before, but maybe because they've got some interest and want to get that college shirt giveaway, maybe that's going to do it. I'm personally really excited for our Marvel Defender of the Diamonds night coming up here. That's going to be a really fun night here at the ballpark.
Which hero are you guys highlighting?
We are highlighting Captain America.
And, okay, so here's where I ask the question for the audience.
I can see the joy.
Yeah. Here's where, because that's my favorite Marvel guy. I've got to have an action figure like right off camera here. But a lot of teams, it's weird how teams make a decision. Some teams, you pretty much got to auction off the game worns. Some teams will also make them available for sale, at least in the ballpark. What's the strategy that you guys will do for particularly that Defenders of the Diamond night, because it's such a big night?
Yeah, those will be auctioned off. I believe those will be done through MiLB auctions like we have with our other jersey auction so far this year. And I'm pretty sure that'll be the last jersey auction for this year too. So, the fact that it's going to be the Captain America plus the last one this year, I'm sure we'll have a lot of hype going into it for that auction.
Have you seen the design yet? And when it comes to the design, is it up to you guys, or how does that work? Since it's sort of a league wide or league wide basically initiative.
Yeah, so those were all like preset basically, and we got to choose, and that was the one we had chosen for this year. So they came in, I think maybe last week. I wasn't able to get my hands on one. I wanted to get one. I was running a little late here. But we are working on a little reveal for that. I mean, if you've seen any of the other teams that have done it, it'll be that same, jersey with our look on it. But we are just super excited to have that night. We're also doing a family sleepover. We'll have Guardians of the Galaxy as well after the game. So we're really hoping, to have, that'll be a really big family night here to come watch the game, come watch a movie, and then be able to sleep over post game here at the ballpark.
You mean as Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yes.
For those there's like 8 people who are going to get that joke. And you know what? That's for you, 8 people. Dustin, it's been great having you on, and we're going to have you on again to wrap up the season, but you guys are actually at the halfway point, right? Or just maybe a little over it. What has been your impression so far of the Hooks, the community in Corpus, and what are some things that maybe you learned that you didn't know what to expect when you got here?
Yeah, I have loved every second since I got here. The front office staff here, the community, the fans, everything is just so fully embracing. It's just, that's what a big part of having that role in the community and having the community that supports you back, because it all goes hand in hand, and it really shows you that, you know, you can't be successful without having the community on the back end of you. But yeah, it's just been super fun being here. The promos that we have, the giveaways, everything that goes into it. And that's what we want, you know, fans to know, because there's so much that goes into planning a season. Everyone always, you know, if you work in minor league baseball, the joke is, well, you guys don't do anything in the off season. You guys just sit around, right? But as we keep talking about how every single game has something tied to it, I mean, we're already looking forward and having meetings for next year and what's going into this giveaway and that giveaway and this night. So it's really just a revolving door that never stops. So I'm excited to have, now that I'm here and have our hand in planning for next year, I think that's going to be the really fun part, is having, you know, my own footprint in terms of how everything plays out next year too.
Right.
But so far this year has just been such a blast. It's such a cool community to be here. And, you know, just, it's something I just will never forget. You know, one day, whenever my time comes as the end of working in baseball, I know this will definitely be here at the top.
Even with the humidity.
Okay, well, now we're
Hey man, I just got back from Florida and I thought I was tough because I grew up in Houston, but Florida is unreal.
See, and I grew up in South Florida, and I think it's worse out here. Everywhere that I go, I've been here, I've been Mississippi, I've been Florida. For some reason, I guess I'm attracted to the humidity, but I really am not attracted to it at all.
Yeah. I kept walking. It felt like I was walking into a wall of heat. You know, outside of getting Jaws night together though, for next year, what are some, what are you kind of looking forward to, and how much of it is required to you kind of keeping your pulse on what is new? Like, I was wearing earlier my Durham Bulls Stranger Things jersey. They jumped into that way at the beginning. So how much of it is that of kind of trying to see where trends are going and what's going to attract people to come out?
A bunch of it is because we want to make sure that, you know, there's so much that we try to plan now, but so much that we kind of leave a little open-ended for things of that nature that pop up. And that means too, that if something pops up that we didn't necessarily have planned, that we won't do it. You know, we want to make sure that, you know, we keep every opportunity open. So just because it wasn't initially planned doesn't mean that we can't always add something into the calendar after the fact.
Well, yeah, I love that y'all have that flexibility, Dustin. It's always great having you on. I know that it's kind of cool because you and I text periodically. So now it's like every once in a while we get to connect, and we're going to have you on definitely to wrap up the show, wrap up the season. But again, good luck the second half. And I hope you guys just keep doing what you're doing, because you really are one of the shining stars in minor league baseball.
Of course. And it's great just hearing you say that, and then seeing with you wearing the Blue Ghost hat and I've got the Coombies hat. It's just everything that we keep talking about of just being so diverse and having all the different things and all our caps behind us. And it's made possible through, you know, our fans and our community, and you as well, Jim, and kind of the support that you have in helping us expand our role here and what we do and what we, you know, hope to do for the community.
On the St. Louis team, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
That's what I want to find out. I want you to tell me the names of the fellas on the St. Louis team.
I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
Do you know the fellas' names?
Yes.
Well, then who's playing first?
Yes.
I mean, the fellas'
Who's on first? The Let's Get To Team of the Week.
Who? The guy on first base.
Presented by the Baseball Bucket List Podcast.
I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, who is on first?
I'm asking you who's on first. That's the name.
Sometimes, guys, life gets in the way. And so I woke up this morning, I got all of this episode recorded because I'm supposed to fly to Lexington tomorrow morning to cover the Lexington Legends. Well, we've all watched the news and my flight was canceled. And because it was canceled so late in the process, there was no opportunity for me to reschedule it and therefore get to Lexington, which is a bummer. But we did already record our interview with Madison from the Lexington Legends, and I wanted to go ahead and include that now, even though, again, we're not going to be able to go. So the interview might be weird because it's going to be a lot of, hey, I can't wait to meet you, and I'm not gonna. But I was very impressed with her. I'm very impressed with the Legends, and I wanted you at least to be able to learn a little bit about the independent ball club out of Kentucky so that maybe you can add it to your travels. And so we're super excited to welcome to Let's Get To Madison Spencer. She is the Special Projects and Promotion Manager for your Lexington Legends. Madison, how's it going?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. I am excited to get up and get out to the airport tomorrow so I can get there and meet you in person and get out to see the ballpark. Yeah,
well, Lexington's great. We've got a lot going on this season, so we're happy to have you.
Before we jump into that, let's talk a little bit about you. How'd you end up where you are? I mean, I presume you started out as somebody who liked baseball, liked sports, and now you're working for a really winning tradition franchise in the Lexington Legends.
Yeah, so it actually started off, I went to UK and I was a hospitality major. So we came here on a tour actually, and I'm like, oh, this would be fun. They talked about internship opportunities, and I'm like, all right, I have nothing to do this summer. So I interned here as a hospitality intern, and I just started seeing all the fan engagement stuff. And I was like, I think I was made for fan engagement. So I started off as a hospitality intern and then was a hospitality manager. And then our owner, Andy, asked me what I wanted to do. And I was like, I really love fan engagement, community relations. And so this year is my first year kind of in front of the show now as the promotions manager. So started off hospitality, thought I would want to do that, realized I'm not really a behind the scenes type of girl. So now I moved my way up to promotions.
So what is it about the fan engagement? And that's, first of all, that's what minor league baseball is about, right? It's about the fan engagement. What is it about it that you like so much?
Yeah, see, I wanted to work in sports because I like sports. And then I realized baseball is about entertainment. And I love when fans come in, whether they're dressed up for the theme night and just having a good time, and just seeing fans having a great time just makes me love my job and want to have fun too.
Do you usually dress up for the theme night?
Oh, I sure do. I love dressing up, and the promo team too. I always tell the promo team I won't let them do something I wouldn't do too. So whether it's dressing up as a hot dog or princess, anything we got to do.
Well, and you know, as a fan, and I think about my experience actually in Kentucky last year, we went to Bowling Green and they had their Halloween thing. And the fact that the GM on down was in costume and we were too, it really does feel like it's all of us having a good time and not just a way to get somebody into the ballpark.
Yes, no, absolutely. I think staff buy-in is really important to get the staff to buy, or the fans to buy in as well.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the schedule coming up, because I noticed some of the theme nights and the theme nights and the promotions. And, you know, again, I think that's something that Major League Baseball could really look to minor league baseball and learn how to do. You guys are having on July 7th a competition for sexiest plumber in Lexington. Please tell me how that's going to go down, because that's amazing.
Yes. So we're reaching out to all the plumbers around Lexington, inviting them out. We're going to do a little pageant show beforehand. We're going to have a dance cam. All the promotions are just going to be plumber related. Right now, we actually do Dizzy Plumber, where we have a plunger and we have fans spin around it and then race like Dizzy Bat. So all the promotions are going to be centered towards plumbers, and we're really looking forward to the pageant show beforehand.
That's just amazing. The other big thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is the whole Kentucky Wild Health Genomes thing, right? So essentially, you're housing two ball teams. Talk to me a little bit about just where that came from and how's it worked out.
Yeah, so there needed to be another team in order for there to be an even number in the Atlantic League. And our owner, Andy Shea, he's always dreaming big and thinking of other things that we can do here and just getting more fans here. And so he was like, how awesome would it be to have baseball here every single day? For a sales perspective too, it's nice to, if groups couldn't make it in the past to a game with limited games, this year they have any day to choose from. So we actually have baseball here every Tuesday through Sunday. So it doesn't have to be just limited amount of time this summer now.
You guys, how has that worked for your team? I mean, are you guys like Is it still early enough this season that you're still fired up, or are you starting to get a little bit like I just like a nap?
Yeah, well, we do a 2-team system. So 1 week we'll be in the office, one team will be in the office, and then the other team will be games and vice versa. So that really helps with burnout and everything. But we do, as a front office, the sales team sells for both teams. The marketing department does marketing for both teams. So it's been nice to get experience with 2 teams out of a ballpark for sure.
All right. The last promotion thing I wanted to talk about, I'm a dog person. Those of you watching the episode, and hopefully you'll watch it back, I'm now putting up pictures of Vader and Quint, my 2 German Shepherds. You guys are doing on July 28th, Dog Adoption Day. It's going to be a Wild Health Genomes Day. The High Point Rockers are in town. That's something I'm not seeing in minor league baseball. How's it going to work? And why did y'all feel like it was important?
Yeah, so different humane societies are going to come out and have dogs up for adoption. So fans come and adopt a dog. We have Thirsty Thursdays every Thursday and Bark in the Park. So we were definitely thinking, what else could we do to enhance our Bark in the Parks and our Thursdays? And so we really wanted to not only just invite dogs to the dog park, but bring awareness to how many dogs are in the humane societies around Lexington.
I love that. Do you have a dog, or will you be bringing one home?
I've already told all my coworkers, I'm like, don't let me take them all home. I have a big soft spot for dogs and animals, and I have 2 right now.
Oh, great. Okay. What are their names? My fans care.
Bella and Zoe.
Oh, okay. I love that. And I actually lied. One last theme night, and I'm going to ask this. I'm going to pretend to be like eye rolly about it. And it's only because in my regular life, I'm a high school teacher, and one of these came back after the pandemic. What's up with mullet and mustache appreciation night? Because all I think about when I see my students, as I think of Ron Swanson, are the scissors in your house broken? What's going on?
Yes, a lot of our players actually have mullets and mustaches, so it'll be a good night to get them involved as well. But it is Kentucky. We see a lot of mullets in and out of the ballpark, so we thought it would be fun to have them out here. Anyone with a mullet or mustache gets in free. We're going to have a little competition who has the best mullet or mustache, and it should be a really fun night.
I cannot wait to see all that. Hopefully there'll be a lot on social media. All right. Are you ready? Clear your head. We're going to play a little pepper.
Okay.
What's your go-to ballpark food?
Oh, cheese fries.
Okay. All right. You might be the first one to ever say cheese fries. There you go.
You got to have ranch.
Marvel or DC?
Marvel, for sure.
Okay. What's the strangest thing you've ever seen at a ballpark?
Strangest thing I've ever seen, probably our owner, Andy Shea, wearing space cat pants on the Genome's opening day.
Space cat?
Yeah.
Like a cat in space?
Space pants with cats on them.
I love everything about that. Okay. All right. We might have already known the answer to this one. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
What's the first time baseball ever broke your heart?
Ever broke my heart? I don't think it's broken it yet. It's still whole.
Get out while you still can. Okay. Outside of the legends, what is your favorite team brand in minor league baseball?
I love the Rockies. I love all the specialty jerseys they do, the bobbleheads. I love following them on their social media platforms. They're always having a good time.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Me too. All right. Star Wars or Indiana Jones?
Star Wars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kevin Costner as a cowboy or a ball player?
Cowboy, for sure.
Favorite? Yeah. You know what? Everybody says ball player, and I'm like, dude won an Oscar playing a cowboy. Plus we have Yellowstone, which means we get Rip.
Exactly. We actually have Yellowstone night coming up too.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so cool. All right. So you go to a new ballpark. Where's your favorite place to sit?
Behind home plate.
Okay. And the last question on our pepper thing. What is your go-to baseball movie?
Oh, that's a good one. 42.
Oh, great choice. Great choice. I just got back from Jackie Robinson Ballpark. Great choice. All right. So as we wrap up then, Madison, like I said, I'm coming out. I'll be out there tomorrow. I'm very excited. What's one thing you think I need to like eat, do, or see at the ballpark to really give me that full Legends fan experience?
Yeah, let's see. You definitely have to stop by our Kentucky Proud Stand. All our food is local and it is some of the best food I've had. And I've got to show you the view from the Pepsi deck. It is one of our group areas and it's the best view of the ballpark.
All right. I cannot wait. She's Madison Spencer from the Lexington Legends. Thanks so much for jumping on Let's Get To.
Thanks for having me.
Show me the merch. Fashion, baseball style. Presented by the Baseball by Design podcast.
And we're back here on Show Me the Merch. Paul Caputo is back for his regular-ish visit. Paul, I gotta ask, why is it that we went for a more of a American flag vomited on a cap look for the 4th of July baseball look this year? It's mathematically awful, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's objectively bad, I think, is the best way to explain it. What I think is that the Major League Baseball designers, some designer in there had a traumatic experience in the 90s with those paper cups that had like the purple and teal like splash across them. Like everyone knows this like design that was on like the generic paper cups from the fast food restaurants. I think they just took that design and turned it into like the American flag and slapped it on the Toronto Blue Jays cap.
The funny part is too, I got a 90s vibe from it as well, because it kind of reminded me of the early 90s. I think it was Logo Athletic was doing all the NFL sideline caps. So like you had like the shark tooth look, and then but still not as good. Like those still look good. I don't know. It just, I can't believe it's past muster.
It's, to talk about it in sort of graphic design nerd terms, right? Like the trendy design these days is what they call like flat design, right? And so there's not a lot of like beveled edges. There's not a lot of, drop shadows anymore. And so we've gotten away from the tricks that we learned we could do with Illustrator and Photoshop and, all of the image editing software that exists out there. We got away from the stuff that we could do just because we could do it. And we've gotten back to more of sort of like a flat design. And not to nerd out too much on this, but we're not doing gradient blends anymore, right? Like the Tampa Bay Devil Rays were the last team to do a gradient blend in their uniform. And it was because they could, right? It's like, hey, we can put 14 colors in a logo like the Arizona Diamondbacks and still like get it stitched, right? So we've gotten away from that. And for whatever reason, Major League Baseball went full flash dance on this and was just like, we are just gonna, like you say, we're loading the American flag into a paint cannon and shooting it at a cap. And that's sort of how we ended up with this design that unfortunately, we were talking right before we started recording here, the Major League design that we've seen now on every Major League team's cap for the 4th of July coming up has now been adopted also by minor league. And I'm afraid that this is somewhat what we're going to see with the major leagues and the minor leagues, being merged into one after the reorganization. Major League Baseball came through and sort of swept up minor league baseball under its control. And we're going to see these templated things that Major League Baseball does applied to the minors as well. So it's for minor league baseball enthusiasts like you and me, that's sort of hard to take, right? Because I started seeing these teams put out their minor league caps, and it's the same template that the major leagues are using. It
started last year, even though last year was a better 4th of July look. Mm-hmm. And then for as much as I love them, the clubhouse look was also the same thing. It was all the sort of home plate with something in the middle. I mean, but it does cause concern, right? Like, is this just, you think it's just a sort of happenstance? It's easy, or do you really feel like it's just the first of many examples where the MLB is going to exert control?
I think that we're going to see more of that. I can tell you James, you know that some of our fellow Curved Rim Media Network members were in Minnesota last week at the time of this recording. We were in the merch store, and they were selling the St. Paul Saints had a logo that was the Minnesota Twins Minnie and Paul logo, but instead they had Minnie, and then I think it was Minnie, and then the Paul was replaced by the St. Paul Saints pig logo that they do. And so they did this very like St. Paul Saints version of the Minnie and Paul logo that I thought was sort of hilarious and awesome, and a sign that the St. Paul Saints were going to continue being who the St. Paul Saints are. And I went looking for that shirt in the St. Paul Saints gift shop, and the person working the gift shop there told me that Major League Baseball made them stop selling that shirt. And so I hope I'm not getting anyone in trouble when I say that, but like that to me was just like, oh my gosh, that shirt was so great. And then Major League Baseball was just like, no, too much fun. And so yeah, I'm concerned about it. I'm concerned for the minor league baseball, world that I love so much, having Rob Manfred's Vogon Destructor fleet come through and squish all the creativity out of it.
Well, but you even see it in for as much as I've liked most of the iterations, but there's about 8 different defenders of the diamond templates, and 4 teams have the Thor thing that Rough Riders had. It's
right.
And it whereas the way it used to be, and the way the independent leagues still are, is every team sort of picked their own like Star Wars night shirt, and it wasn't always just the same thing. And I don't know. I mean, I'm with you. I'm really actually concerned about it, and have been concerned about that part of it from the beginning. For as much as, in many ways, contraction has not been as bad as we thought,
right?
And in some ways, has actually helped things. Sure. This is the area I've been the most worried about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the branding of these teams. Yeah, I mean, like you say, the partner leagues are working out fairly well for those teams, and leagues that shifted from affiliated to, say, collegiate summer level, like the Appalachian League. Some of that has worked out fairly well for these teams. The branding side of it is something that I worry about, and the uniformity of minor league baseball, conforming with Major League Baseball, is really something I don't want to see. It's really, really something I don't want to see. And and you feel the same way, that I feel like it should be illegal for minor league teams to be branded after their parent club.
Constitutional amendment.
A constitutional amendment is what I would like to see. That's how I'm determining who I vote for in the midterm elections here. And so this is almost an extension of that, right? Like the 4th of July, the minor league baseball 4th of July uniforms, just reflecting exactly what the major league clubs are doing is, it feels too easy to me, right? And like, it feels very un-minor league baseball to me. And so when I saw all of these teams start releasing their caps, and I realized it was the same 90s purple and teal cup branding that the major league teams were doing, it was disappointing to me.
I guess let's go into why. And I know that, like we had a whole thing I want to talk about, but this is more interesting than what I had planned, as how often happens. But no, explain, because you're aware of it and I'm aware of it, because you and I look at minor league baseball from this sort of broad, it's a thing.
Sure.
MLB's thinking a fan of Binghamton doesn't know that the hat's the exact same as the fan of Round Rock, because they don't really, but maybe explain to people why it does matter that we're starting to see so much uniformity, so much homogeneity in some of our designs.
Well, you and I both focus on how important the hyper local aspect of minor league baseball branding is. It's so important to these teams. You mentioned Binghamton. The reason Binghamton is the Rumble Ponies is because Binghamton, New York is the carousel capital of the world. That's awesome, right? Like that is so much fun, right? And you and I both talk about that stuff in our respective shows and podcasts. And so, like you say, I mean, you and I look at this stuff from 30,000 feet and we see, okay, there's now 120 affiliated teams and all of their 4th of July hats look exactly alike. And that matters to us because we sort of care about the industry at large. If I'm a fan of the Delmarva Shorebirds, I see that the Delmarva Shorebirds have this sort of wackadoodle 4th of July cap, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll buy it, maybe I won't. But there's nothing hyper local about it, and And in the end, sure, like maybe you're aware, and maybe if you're a Shorebirds fan, you're like, okay, well, this cap and the Orioles 4th of July cap look sort of alike, but you're making a connection across the leagues. But we're losing the hyper local attention to detail that could be incorporated into the various teams' 4th of July branding. And so, it is easier. It is cheaper. It is cheaper to have one template and use it across the board. But it's not, it's minor league baseball is nothing if not hyper local. And when you start templating things like this, okay, the 4th of July thing, that's one thing. But are we going to start templating the food-based brands that these teams do? Everyone has to have a food-based brand, and it's going to, fit like exactly like this onto the template that we provide. Thankfully we have not seen that with the Copa de la Diversión, but could that creep into that aspect, right? Like once we start templating things in minor league baseball branding, we start to lose that hyper local connection.
Yeah, it's interesting because I start to think about how long my interest will persist if that becomes it, or do I pivot what I cover purely to, indie leagues? I refuse to call them partner leagues because I think it's such a actually disservice to those leagues that they're partner leagues.
Right.
Hey, we're going to let you pay to develop our players if that's cool. But also the collegiate summer leagues. Like I think part of what I love about this is getting to, like you say, learn about like the whole Omaha potholes thing, for example. I didn't even know that living in a cold environment causes more potholes. I know that now because I follow that team.
You're telling the story of America, one minor league baseball team at a time here, right? Like learning that stuff and even like the food-based stuff. I mean, I can't tell you how much pleasure I get out of the fact that people who have never been to the Mid-Atlantic are now calling water ice, right? Because of the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. And
I got my jersey, came in the mail the other day. So excited.
It's so great, right? And the things that that I've learned about America, just covering these teams, right? Like, and I'll never forget what the desert is called in New Mexico, right? Because of the El Paso, or in Texas, because of the El Paso Chihuahuas, right? I mean, it's like, I'm always going to know these like little tidbits about the United States of America because of the hyper local approach. And the templating of anything in minor league baseball to me is just, it's encroaching on what I love so much about the sport. And, maybe it's more egregious because the template is bad. Like it's an objectively bad template this year.
Like last year's template I thought was really good, actually.
Right. Yeah, I liked last year's, and it sort of reflected that flat design that we've been talking about. Right. So maybe this wouldn't be such a bad thing if this atrocious design hadn't somehow gotten out there into the world. Like I saw, we've been joking about the fact that the Toronto Blue Jays hat exists in this template as well, right? And like I
find it interesting that I get why it exists for players to wear. I don't understand why they're even selling it.
Right.
Is there a large percentage of Blue Jays fan living south of Toronto, Ontario? I don't think
it's so. Huge in Dunedin, man. It's huge in Dunedin.
One of the things that I think has me, and I wanted your take on this, because I believe that a lot of the contraction was essentially a real estate deal. And I think that will bear out. I think more and more teams want to take ownership, and hopefully they'll follow the model of what the Astros have done, which is pretty much just let their minor league teams be their minor league teams. Mm-hmm. You don't get the Space Cowboys if you're super worried about like a corporate whatever.
Sure.
How much of it, though, if we see more homogeneity, will end up in a reduction of value that might make them pivot back to letting the minor league teams just decide what they're doing for their own market?
You're touching on so many different things right now about this, everything that's going on in the relationship between Major League Baseball and minor league baseball, because I think the sort of power grab that Major League Baseball made on minor league baseball was because they saw the value of these franchises just going up and up and up and up. And so, some of these beautiful stadiums and, the money that these teams were making off of all their alternate brands and whatnot, the value of minor league baseball teams went through the roof in the last couple of decades. And Major League Baseball saw this and they're like, well, they're just riding our coattails. So we want a piece of this. I think Major League Baseball is learning from minor league baseball. I think the City Connect uniforms are essentially, Major League Baseball seeing minor league baseball's temporary rebrands and realizing, hey, that was a brilliant idea. And we want a piece of that too. So I do think that Major League Baseball sees the wisdom in what minor league baseball has been doing. And hopefully they won't shoot themselves in the foot with this one. Hopefully they'll see that the reason these franchises that they so badly wanted control of over it's because of the creative stuff they were doing with alternate brands. And my hope is that Major League Baseball, it'll go sort of more the other direction, right? Like it'll go, Major League Baseball will start doing more of like the City Connect stuff. And what I worry about, there was an episode of Benny Hill where
we're off the rails, baby.
Wait for it here. There's a payoff, I promise. So Benny Hill has a goldfish and some friend comes and he says, watch this. He says, I can use my mental energy to control what the goldfish does. And he stares at the goldfish and he starts moving the goldfish around with his head. And Benny Hill is like, oh, let me try that. And so he gets in there and he tries to control the goldfish. And then it shoots up to him a couple seconds later. And he's over there like gasping for breath, like he's a fish. So the fish is controlling Benny Hill now instead. Right. So it's funnier when you watch it than when I tell it.
Right. I'll Google it just for my own.
But my concern with this is that Major League Baseball is going to be like, wow, minor league baseball was really clever and really brilliant. And we're going to take them over so that we can, get a piece of that. And instead of Major League Baseball becoming more like minor league baseball, they're going to make minor league baseball more like Major League Baseball. So
there was a Star Wars night jersey that the St. Louis Cardinals had about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was pretty awesome because it was their birds on a bat, but they had replaced the bat with a lightsaber.
Nice.
The team wore it. They sold it. But outside of the City Connect or throwbacks or faux backs, if you're the Astros and you mislabel your 90s uniform as a faux back, I'm sorry, it's a throwback because they actually wore it. Sorry. But I mean, do you see a market for that where they do kind of steer more into the theme nights the way minor league baseball does?
I hope so. I do. I hope so. And I think that it's, the fear that people have is that, or the fear that I have is that people will say, oh, that's silly, right? Like that's silly. And so I remember when Nolan Arenado hit for the cycle and the game-winning hit was in a Father's Day uniform, the game-winning hit was a home run and it was in the Father's Day uniform. And so everyone's like, oh, you've got this iconic moment here and it's in these silly uniforms. I actually thought those uniforms were kind of cool. And this photo of Nolan Arenado, he's got like blood on his face for some reason. And he's like screaming and it's this like iconic photo, right? Like it's great. And it happened in this, Father's Day uniform. So the concern is like, oh, you might have, is Clayton Kershaw going to throw a no-hitter wearing, a Tommy Boy anniversary shirt or something, right? Like obviously that's an extreme.
I now want that, by the way. I need a Tommy Boy anniversary jersey.
When is Tommy Boy night at the ballpark? Get Ben Hill on the phone.
It's got to be a little coat, right? Like that's what they have to wear.
fat guy in a little coat.
Yeah.
So if something iconic had happened on Star Wars night in St. Louis, would we have the purists complaining about, oh God, that, we've got to remember that moment forever, thinking about Yoda instead of thinking about Michael Wacha throwing a no-hitter or whatever, whatever it was.
I want to read to you. It's something you've already read, but one of the things I try to do to raise awareness for this show is I will occasionally do a boosted post on Facebook. I think it's a good advertising opportunity for our show. We see a growth in it. And I had done one and somebody decided to comment with, I've never understood why some minor league teams have such dumbass names. And I, of course, replied with, I never understood why douchebags continue to rain on other people's good time. But no, I mean, how much of that, though, is that with MLB's fighting? Is there such a section of MLB, do you think, that's a little embarrassed by some of these names? Like maybe they don't get it yet.
Right. Yes. Yes, I think that's absolutely the case. And you saw that happen with, who was it? You have to remind me here, James. I'm sorry. There was a major leaguer who was on a rehab assignment who was wearing a SpongeBob SquarePants uniform.
It was the Yankees. It was one of their presidents. that had said something about it, because it was the same guy who didn't like the Pizza Rats night.
Right. Right. And so I'm sorry for not remembering who that was exactly, but there was a Major League Baseball player wearing a SpongeBob SquarePants uniform, and the world went crazy over it, right? Like everyone was, all in an uproar, like, oh, see, this is, you spend your whole life working towards this and you end up wearing a SpongeBob SquarePants uniform. The thing was, the player in question loved it. Right. Like the player in question, like he thought it was the most awesome thing. And like all the stories afterwards were just like, where he's like, what are you talking about? I thought this was great. I had so much fun with it. And so I think there is a world of people out there who will throw a fit over anything that is, that they deem to be not fully respectful of the majesty of the game. And it's just like, just get over yourselves, right? Get over yourselves. That guy who commented on your Facebook post about like, oh, why do these teams have dumbass names? Well, guess what? There's some great podcasts and some great shows out there that tell you about where all these dumbass names came from, right? Like, and they're all awesome. Every one of them is awesome.
You're literally replying to a comment on one. Maybe scroll up and you can learn something. As we go, I want to talk a little bit about just you and 4th of July. Like do you try to be at a ballpark? I mean, does it work out for you ever? And does that make it feel a little bit more American-y?
Yes. I have some great ballpark memories from the 4th of July. And I am more often at a minor league park than I am at a major league park. Although last year I was, or a couple of years ago, the most recent time was at Coors Field. There's nothing like fireworks at a baseball stadium, right? Like, I mean, there's just no fireworks show as good as that. But I have to tell you, my all-time favorite memory of the 4th of July at a baseball stadium was when the Colorado Springs Sky Sox were still here in town. It was before they moved to San Antonio and the Rocky Mountain Vibes came in. They had a fireworks show planned, and of course they sell out. They always sell out the fireworks show.
Right. Yeah.
And so we have a sort of never-ending drought going on here in Colorado. And so because the drought was particularly bad that year, they had to cancel the fireworks. And they knew that people who had sold out this ballpark were going to be really mad. And so they were like, we're going to do something to make it up to you. So we're sorry we had to cancel the fireworks, but we are bringing in the famous San Diego chicken, and he's going to be there instead. And so, we go to Colorado Springs, and I always drag my family to the ballpark, real early. My daughter was 6 at the time. And so we got there early, and we're just wandering the concourse. And this very tall dude comes up to us and says, I'm the San Diego Chickens handler. In the second inning, he does a show where he has little kids dress up like little chickens and follow him around. And like, it's a sort of funny routine. And he said to my daughter, Maya, would you like to be one of the San Diego chicken chicks? And she was like, no. And I was like, Maya. I was like, your father has waited for this moment his whole life. I need you to reconsider.
It all comes down to this.
Yeah. And so she actually was just like, okay, actually, that sounds kind of fun. And so she did it. So she actually got to go out on the field because of the canceled fireworks. She got to go out on the field with the San Diego chicken. She was baby chick number 1. And like that very first moment where like he goes out and he lifts his leg like he's paying on the catcher, and then Maya's right behind him. She lifts her leg and the crowd just like erupts, right? Like, and so that was on the 4th of July because of fireworks that they canceled. That guess what? They uncanceled because the fireworks ban lifted right before the 4th of July. So we got the San Diego chicken, Maya on the field, and fireworks all on the 4th of July at a ballpark.
That sounds like an amazing 4th of July experience. Now, Paul, you're going to be guesting on a couple of episodes coming up. You're going to be on this. You're going to be on the Holler and a Swaller segment. But how much fun are you looking forward to finally getting to meet in person and get out to some ball games?
I can't believe that it's taking until now for us to actually meet in person. Like, how long have we actually known each other? And like, this conversation just feels so natural here. July 7. Can we break this news? This is super exciting. We get to throw out first pitches at the Rocky Mountain Vibes game on
first
July 7th.
Bitches. And thanks to Patrick Larson, who just like, I fall asleep and I woke up to like 15 alerts because this dude he's like our handler. He's getting it done.
Pat Larson just set the mechanism in work and whatever he worked his social media magic. And I didn't even know this was going on until he sent a screen grab of it to the group thread that we have. So yeah, so we get to throw out some first pitches. You and I get to meet in person at a doubleheader at the Rocky Mountain Vibes. And then we're going to go up and hit my second Gem City Bison game up in Laramie, Wyoming. And I'll tell you all about Thomas Edison and the filament light bulb and how come Laramie is called the Gem City.
I cannot wait. He is Paul Caputo. Make sure you're watching him on Baseball by Design, and follow all of our Curved Brim Media. As we're going out, we're like Hydra, cut one down and another one grows in its place. Maybe, I don't know. Thanks for jumping on, man.
This is so much fun. I love it. I can't wait till the next time.
And now on to close it out, the right-hander from Houston, Texas, James Christopher.
So that does wrap us up. And remember, guys, it is the 4th of July, and it's not Memorial Day. It's not that heavy a holiday. You should get out and celebrate this country. And remember a couple of things. One, remember that there's a lot of people who don't think America is the place that I believe it is. A land of opportunity, a land where you can be free, a land where you can think what you want to think. Today, find some solace in celebrating the potential of what this country can be. And then tomorrow, get back to work to making it better. And I think that's the best thing we can do, is celebrate what we have to offer. And then on July 5th, start working on how we can make that better, how we can make those ideals come to fruition. The other thing I want you to do is remember, I'm wearing my Home of the Brave shirt, part of our home series that we do. It's available on our website. I'm wearing this one because I want to always remember that all of us are going to be out. Like, you might be at a ball game. I'm going to be home watching Jaws because it's what I do on the 4th of July. Make sure that we remember that we're able to do all of this stuff, and we're able to have these discussions and have my ability to come on this show and talk about how I feel about a Supreme Court ruling, because there are men and women of all races and creeds and colors and orientations that are out there keeping us safe tonight. They're not having that fun time with family because they're on a ship, or they're at an air base, or they're forwardly deployed. Just remember them when you're having a good time tonight. And by all means, happy 4th. Have a great time. Get you some extra peanuts. Get you some Cracker Jack. And most importantly, let's get to. Let's Get To is presented by Twitchy Dolphin Media. Creative Director, Jessica Bybee-Jedgetts. Executive Producers, James Christopher, Andy Tom Chesson, and Scott McIntyre. Produced by Andrew Nelson and Eric Mertens. Associate Producers, Timothy Jedgetts and Jess Canaster. Music by Andy Bertelson, Grace Usselman, and On Holiday. All content created by Let's Get To is the sole property of Twitchy Dolphin Media. All content created by teams covered in the episode are the sole property of the trademark holders. Let's Get To is a proud member of the Curved Brim Media Network.
This podcast is part of the Curved Brim Media Network. Here are some of the other members of Curved Brim Media.
Hi, I'm James Christopher, host of Let's Get To, and we are going to be taking you on a tour of this great country through the lens of minor league baseball. That's right, from sea to shining sea, we're going to be looking at towns big and small as we explore the greatest game ever invented.
This is Patrick
and Corey
of BaseballMapper.com, and we have made an interactive map to help highlight all baseball teams from the majors down to collegiate summer leagues.
We want to bring you closer to baseball, so get on the site and find a team near you today.
Hi, this is Ed Rivera of the Data Chronicles. Join me as I interview people just like you and players, coaches, GMs on the path that led you to become a fan of the sport.
What's up, Bucketheads? I'm Anna DiTomaso, and each week on the Baseball Bucket List podcast, I speak with a different fan about their favorite baseball memories, what the game means to them, and what's left to check off on their baseball bucket list.
Hey guys, this is Patrick Larson from the Minor League Baseball Hat History Series, and in every episode I go through the history of minor league teams through my personal collection of hats. You can find me on Twitter at PatLarson1. I hope you guys enjoy.
And I'm Paul Caputo. I tell the story of America one minor league baseball logo and nickname at a time on the Baseball by Design podcast.
Learn more about Curved Brim Media at curvedbrimmedia.com.